Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Weekly Fix. We are fresh off Christmas. It is actually New Year's Day as we are recording this. I got my friend Zane with me, as always. Zane, how was your Christmas now that we are officially past Christmas? And how are you enjoying the new year so far now that we're a few hours into it?
Oh man, it was a great Christmas. We had a wonderful trip up to West Virginia. The trip back wasn't the best that it could have been. We had a tractor trailer catch on fire and shut down the interstate for 2 hours. But other than that, it was great. We were safe and we made it home good. And then our New Year's has been great. So just blessed. Got some amazing pops for Christmas. Some ones that I never thought I'd have in my collection. So that was really cool. Some amazing golf shoes that I tried to try out, but in Florida, we had a frost delay, so I actually didn't get to golf. Um, I was supposed to go at 7:30. We show up at 7:30. I woke up at 6:30. Well, I woke up at 6:50. I was supposed to wake up at 6:30. Woke up at 6:50. Show up at the course, and literally there's a golf frost delay. We couldn't play until 9:30, and so that was too late. I didn't get to go. So
I've
that's
never
not.
heard of a frost delay in Florida. Is this like a first time ever?
I've never heard of it. Didn't know it was a thing. Didn't know it was 34 degrees. Like there, it was like
Frost delay.
it's like oh no, there's a little ice on the ground from the dew. Crazy. We can't play for 2 hours.
That is crazy. Well, you're talking about some of the Funko Pops you got, and as you guys know, we've talked a little bit about on the channel. Me and Zane both like to collect. And why don't you tell us a little bit about what you were able to get this Christmas?
Oh man, well you got me an amazing Peter B. Parker with May. That is just absolutely amazing. It's if you've seen Across the Spider Verse, it is just Peter B. Parker is incredible, and him and May are so cool in that just a little father figure. But his flip flops say "Cool Dad," and he's got her strapped on the front. And I have a daughter, and she is just absolutely incredible, and so it's just really cool to play off of that. One of my favorite movies of the year. And on top of that, I get to also have like it has a daughter aspect to it, which is just really cool. I got that one, and then I got a Grail. I got Loki from Endgame holding the Tesseract that actually spun off the Loki series, which was absolutely like I never thought I was going to get that one. That one's so cool and just absolutely amazing. I love that one. It's glow in the dark. The Tesseract glows, so that's really cool. And then I got the God Loki from the Loki series where he's sitting on his throne. That one was just unexpected. I actually it came when it dropped on that day. I was like, "Hey, I was told I wasn't allowed to buy any more Funko Pops because of Christmas," and I was like, "Dang it, I really would like to grab this one." And then, like right before Christmas, I looked at it and I was like, "Man, maybe I should grab it," and it was sold out, and I was like, "Oh man, dang, I really hope I get this." And then lo and behold, my brother-in-law got it for me, which is pretty awesome. So, but yeah,
Yeah,
really good.
well, that's awesome, especially the Loki holding the Tesseract. That is one I'm hoping to add to my collection at some point in the future because one of the things I've been working on with my collection is I love like doing whole Marvel projects. So one of the things I'm working on is getting all like the original Avengers popped, which those are going to take a while because they're so expensive. But
Oh
trying to
yeah.
get through the Age of Ultron, we've got Infinity War, in-game pops, all those. So those are definitely ones I'd love to have just whole shelves dedicated to having all the Avengers movies pops on there. So that one is definitely super cool. You talked about the Peter B. Parker one. It's funny you mentioned that one again because actually last night I was at my sister and her fiance house, and we were talking about some movies throughout the year, and he told me he finally watched Across the Spider Verse, and he's a big Marvel fan, but he said he didn't like it. He said he's just not a
Whoa.
fan of the animation style, and he said he got bored. And that absolutely blew my mind. I'm kind of calling him out a little bit here. So last night I made him before the ball drop and before all that. I said, "All right, we're putting the movie on, and we're gonna watch the last like 20 minutes because I feel like the
Okay.
last 20 minutes of that movie is just crazy. Like everything's going on. I mean, it's just off the wall. And dude, that was the first time I have rewatched that movie at all since I watched it in theaters. And just watching those last 20 minutes of it, I gotta say, I'm gonna go ahead and say I think that was the best movie of 2023.
Ooh. Okay.
And we
I
got a lot of good movies.
oh man,
And I
it's
would love to.
close.
I'm gonna go
It's
ahead and throw that
close.
at you now. I'm gonna go ahead and throw that at you now.
Okay,
Let you think
okay.
about it for a little bit, but we'll come back to that later on. Think about what your favorite movie of the year was. I kind of have a feeling I might know what yours was, but maybe there's a curveball out there.
Okay.
But man, watching those last 20 minutes, that movie is so good.
Yeah. I mean, to say you got bored in that movie is mind blowing to me. I don't understand, and also I don't understand how you don't like the animation. Um, if you don't like that animation, I would just assume you don't like animated films.
Well, and to be fair, he is not a big fan of animated films. He says
Which,
he'll watch them, so it
which,
makes sense in that regard.
so that's understandable, and I can understand somebody not liking animation. But like, if you like animation and you don't enjoy that movie, I don't like. You say the visuals are bad. I can't process that. That doesn't make sense.
Well, it's one of those things, like I said, we just watched those last 20 minutes, but just seeing the little bit of crazy things they did with the animation style, it really blew my mind again, finally watching it again. It was just such a good movie, and the ending, I still think it's such a crazy ending, everything that's going on, and that is probably my most anticipated thing. I don't know if we've heard a whole lot about it, but I would assume there's a good chance we might get it late 2024, maybe early 25.
No,
Because I know
no
it was
chance.
originally slated for like March of 2024 until all the strikes started happening and it got super delayed. But I would love to see something like that in 2024.
I don't think we're possibly going to see Beyond the Spider-Verse in 2024, to be honest.
You think it's 2025 for sure?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Man, watching that, it was just so good. But guys, we have another great episode for you guys. We started talking about a little bit about the Christmas stuff. Zane got some awesome gifts. I got some awesome Funko Pops as well that I'm super excited to have in the collection. I got the Loki and Mobius 2-pack, talking about Loki, the season 2 show. I love that 2-pack. It's got them in there. I guess that was 1893 or something like that. I forget the exact year. I actually have the pop right here. Yeah, 1893. So that's super cool to have. Super happy to have those. But I got some other great ones that's really cool to have. I think all in all, just a great Christmas. So that was super fun. But one of the things I wanted to start talking about is What If. Now, everyone's been talking about What If. I haven't kept my promise to you guys on the podcast.
Oh man,
this
promise
day.
breaker.
I know. This is the first time though.
You're gonna lose your paladin status.
But I haven't got to finish season 1 yet. Obviously, I haven't started season 2, but I know you have. I think you said you hadn't finished season 2 yet, but you have watched a good bit of it. Did you enjoy what you've seen so far?
So that was outdated information. I actually watched the last 3 episodes right before this podcast.
Okay, there we go. So you have the full thing now.
I have the full thing. Yeah, I binged those last 3 episodes. So I think my take on it is that almost every individual episode is better than the originals.
Okay.
But as a collective at the end, it was not near as good.
So that's interesting because I feel like I've heard a lot of similar things, but I feel like people overall have said, just from what I've heard, obviously I haven't watched it yet, I do feel like season 2, a lot of people have said they did enjoy better than season 1. So would you, if you had to pick one of the 2 seasons, is there one that you do prefer now that you've finished season 2?
Man. I'm trying to think back, and it's just it's so hard because like there's individual episodes from season 1 that were just amazing. And then I really like the last culmination fight. Like I didn't like the Killmonger episode. I didn't care for the zombies episode. I thought the Captain Carter episode was terrible. In the first season. In the second season, I thought they were. I didn't really love Kahori. She's the new character that they introduced.
She's brand new, correct?
She's brand new. First MCU mainline character that they created. So there's no connection to the comics at all. This is an MCU original. So we like Darcy and stuff was created in MCU, but those aren't mainline heroes. This is a mainline hero that they created. So I didn't love hers. Now Captain Carter gets her own episode in the second one where she fights the Hydra Stomper with pretty much with Black Widow. That's a really good episode. It's really solid. So that's significantly better than the first season. But then the final episode, it's what if Strange Supreme intervened. That one fell flat for me.
Okay.
So that was supposed to be like the big final scene, and it just seemed. Mm, it seemed like they didn't really understand what they wanted,
Okay.
and that's fine. Um, but everything else before that, those two are the ones that fell flat for me, and that's sad because Kahori is like the new character, and she was like
Yeah.
a headliner in both of those. But um, other than those two, everything was great. Hela finding the Ten Rings was really good. The Avengers 1602, I thoroughly enjoyed. The Grandmaster with Tony, that was really cool. There's a Christmas episode. There's What If Quill Attacked the Mightiest Heroes, that was really good. And then we have like a cool like um, kind of like Blade Runner Nebula, which was kind of neat. It was just a fun journey. So I'd say if I was gonna keep one, I would keep the second season
Okay.
because the individual episodes are better. But as a collected work, I would say the first season is better, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think that makes perfect sense. Which I'm excited. I've heard a lot of good things. A few of the group chats I'm a part of, all I heard was good things about season 2. And I did go ahead and I think they leaked, or I don't know if it was leaked. I think it was officially put out by Marvel. But season 3 of What If is on its way. Have you gotten a chance to watch that trailer for it?
It was the red. What if the Red Guardian saved the Winter Soldier or something?
Yeah, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw the majority of the clip. I may have clicked off of it because I didn't want spoilers, but yeah, looked fine.
Yeah. What I think it's cool that it seems like this is something they're going to stick with, which is awesome. I love that we're getting some stuff that kind of something you can always look forward to. I don't know if
Yeah.
it'll be something that runs 10 seasons, or maybe 3 is it for them. But it is cool to see. And, you mentioned the new original MCU hero. Do you think that that is going to be something that sticks in What If? Or do you think we could see something like that maybe in a live action movie or a show or anything like that? Or do you think they'll try to keep it original to What If?
It just depends. The fun thing with What If is they can play with power ranges and it doesn't affect the overarching MCU. And
Hmm.
Kahori is incredibly strong, um, completely reshaping reality and opening portals and super speed and like matter manipulation. Like she's really OP. And kind of same with Superior Strange. Um, or Strange Supreme. Like he's just too strong to bring
Yeah.
into the main universe, I believe, and actually tell a story that you can see in live action. Um, so I don't think they're gonna bring her in, but they could. But I would be shocked if they do.
I think based off what you said, like I said, I haven't seen it yet, but it does sound like something that would be better just keeping it in What If, so they can let her be as powerful as she needs to be, or how powerful they want her to be, rather than taking that opportunity of messing with the greater picture. But I know I didn't keep my promise of finishing season 1 and all of season 2 by the time we did this podcast, but I did watch a few episodes of season 1. I gotta say, I really did enjoy what I did see. Like you said, the Captain Carter episode in season 1. I really kind of hated that was the opening episode. For someone like me, obviously, I am going to continue to watch it, but I feel like a lot of people really could have been turned off by that first
Oh
episode
yeah.
and maybe not given it the proper chance that the show deserves, because of what I've seen so far, that has been my least favorite episode. Not necessarily for any other reason. I just feel like it wasn't very interesting. I feel like it was just kind of a good. I don't even. I had to say to use a word, a good starter. I think T'Challa as Star Lord, which has been my favorite episode of season 1 so far, that would have been the perfect opening episode of What If, because I feel like all the elements of questions that people would ask, oh, what if this happened? I feel like that episode really encapsulated all those things. We see Thanos, as a good guy, kind of. He's one of the Ravagers, and that's something, what if Thanos was good? So I love that those type of things were brought out in that episode. But really, the Captain Carter episode, while watching it, I was like, I've never really even thought about, like, what if that happened? It just didn't seem interesting to me.
Yeah. I think the problem with that episode is not Um, like, what if it works when you change the story, not the character? And the Captain Carter episode, they didn't change the story. It was still like a captain. It was like essentially Captain America,
Yeah.
but they just put Peggy Carter in his place, which doesn't really make anyone care. Like, like we have the
Because the whole
good,
point of What If is you don't want to know what's happening. You want a
yeah.
new story, essentially.
And they changed the ending, and there's certain elements, but like it's pretty close to the original.
Yeah.
So I enjoy it when they change the story, not the character. Like I don't want the same story told to me with a different character. Like that is like if you put Rocky, like if Creed was just Rocky shot for shot with, instead of, Rocky we have Creed, then Adonis, it doesn't matter. Like no
Yeah.
one cares. Creed gave us a continuation of good story, and that's why the Creed film is good. They took the elements out of it that are good and told a new story with similar qualities. And so I think that's why season two is good. They don't tell any repeats. There's not a single repeat story. They're completely original.
Okay, that's something I'm excited about then, because that's how I feel. I feel like the best part about that first episode of season one was the Hydra Stomper. I thought that was cool that we're kind of seeing like a Iron Man really before it's Iron Man. I kind of like that concept of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like that episode fell flat. But I feel like the T'Challa as Star Lord, like I said, I haven't seen all of season one yet. That episode is what
Where are
really
you
got me
at?
excited. I just finished I guess I'm only after the zombies episode. I haven't watched
Okay.
any since then.
So you
So I
watched the
forget.
Killmonger episode?
Yes, I did watch that one. I
That
don't know
one
what
that one's
episode would I
second
be on.
least favorite. You would be on What If Thor Was an Only Child.
Yes, that is the one I quit watching on.
Yeah.
So,
Which a lot of people hate and I adore. I think it's such a good time.
well, and I'm really excited for. I think episode 8 is. I'm a huge. So we're gonna talk about this a little bit because I love talking about this. I think Age of Ultron gets so much hate for no reason, and I
Too much
honestly
hate.
think it might be one of my favorite Avengers movies to rewatch. Something about that movie, I love the fight scenes in it. I love Ultron as a villain. I really think it's cool, and I really hate that Avengers. It was almost more of, I've heard people say that it really wasn't Age of Ultron. It was more like a Day of Ultron because he's only there for a couple weeks. I would have loved to have seen something like Ultron really get a fleshed out type of villain and really get to see what he's more so capable of. So that's why I'm really excited for episode 8 of season 1, because I know that's the next one after the Thor is What If Ultron won, and I'm very excited for that episode.
Yeah, that's the episode that even like that episode and the one following is the only reason that season one is even a debate if it's better than season two.
Okay.
Because those two are really, really solid. And you said Age of Ultron is slept on and underrated. I completely agree. And one of the reasons is because it's in my top 10.
Oh, and I think it deserves to be. I mean, every time I see it on, or every time I'm like just trying to throw something on while I'm doing something else, because usually I'm not a type of person that likes to watch something while I'm doing something else. But occasionally, if it's on or something like that on YouTube TV or something, I'll put it on just for the fun of it. And I always find myself just stuck staring at the screen because I think it is such a good story. Like I said, I just love Ultron. I like the idea of everything they did there. We really get to see the introduction of Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, all those things like that. So I think Ultron is probably one of the most slept on Marvel projects we've ever gotten, honestly.
Oh yeah, I can agree with that. It's just and rewatchability for me is huge in these ratings. Like, hey, which one would I rather turn on again? Like, there's movies that I love, like, but do you want to watch it again? And that's kind of where Winter Soldier kind of loses its rating for me. It is absolutely top tier Marvel, and I love it. But would I put it on over any of the movies I have ranked above it? No, not a chance. I would always watch Civil War before I watched Winter Soldier, just because it's more fun. It's a better it's a more rewatchable film than Winter Soldier is.
Well, and it's funny, like you bring up rewatchability being a big thing. I feel like a lot of people have almost had that same sentiment, and this is going to probably be one that I disagree with. But I've heard a lot of people say that Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, it is so good. I think it is one of the best Marvel movies we've ever gotten, but it's almost hard to rewatch because it is so sad and it has so many elements of Do I ever really want to see that again? Do I want to see Rocket, struggle? Do I want to see his friends die and things like that? And it's one of those things I've heard a lot of people say, you know what, maybe 2 is a little higher on my ranking list just because it's more rewatchable.
So I had that same fear because I was like, man, it is a hard watch. But upon the third rewatch, that I've already watched it 3 times. The second rewatch, I was like, man, this movie is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's not a hard rewatch because it's coming. I think that takes it off. I think that takes the edge off.
I can see that because I remember watching that for the first time in the theaters, man. Like, you're in tears. I literally cried during that movie.
I think I cried 3 times.
I was like, I don't know if I ever want to watch something like that again. But I think there is a difference to be said when the movie is so good. And I think that's where Guardians Volume 3 lands. I think it is so good that, you're willing to be upset at a scene or something like that just to enjoy the whole story again.
Yeah. No, I agree with that wholeheartedly.
So, like I said, guys, I promise I'll catch up on What If. I promise I'll get there.
So why don't you share with us why you didn't fulfill your promise?
I was getting there. But guys, listen. I know I made a promise. And I said I was going to binge watch What If Season 1. But another show caught my attention. And I think it's probably the most consecutive episodes of a show I have ever watched in one sitting. And that is Reacher on Amazon Prime. Absolutely amazing show. I'm actually watched the first 2 episodes of Season 2 today at the time of filming this. But me and my wife sat down. I'm trying to think of what time it was. It must have been about 7 o'clock, I would say. This past, I guess it was Friday, something like that. And we sat down and we watched the entirety of Season 1 of Reacher in one sitting. And I just had an absolute blast with that show. I love everything about it. I even love the cringiness aspect of it because while you're watching it, there is so much cringe stuff that is said and that happens because it's just so much, almost like superhero-ish, but not a superhero. And I actually love those aspects of it. You hear a lot of people say, the cool guys don't look at explosion things. That is basically what this show is. That encapsulates that line more than any other show I think I've ever watched. And I have just had an absolute blast with it.
Yeah, I would say you made the better choice. If I had to choose between watching Reacher and watching What If, I would watch Reacher every time. And I've been telling you to watch the show, man.
Yeah,
it's good.
Well, that's why I finally gave in. I told you, you came down to visit during Christmas, and I finally told you, I was like, hey, we're gonna watch Reacher, and lo and behold, I watched the entire first season and already 2 episodes in one weekend of Season 2. So clearly, I'm enjoying the show a lot. But it's just such a fun show. It's one of those shows, too, I was telling my wife, it's such a change of pace for me because a lot of the stuff I watch is usually Marvel-related because there is so much of that content that you usually don't really get a chance to get a break from it. And where I'm not a big fan of binge watching, I'm going to watch whatever is released that week. Where we've had such a break in Marvel and Star Wars recently, it's allowed me to kind of catch up on some things I've been wanting to watch, and I'm super happy with what I picked. There's so many other shows I still have to watch. I knew you were talking about, is it called Dark or Darker? I think it's Dark.
Dark,
right?
Just Dark.
Yeah. So that's a show I'm going to hopefully be able to get to. But man, I'm loving Reacher. I'm assuming you've watched all of Season 2 up to this point, correct?
I have not. No, I actually haven't even started it yet.
Okay, so I'm a little bit ahead of you. Wow,
you're ahead of me. I know. It's crazy.
But Season 2 has been a blast. So far, I told you right before the podcast started, I think I enjoyed Season 1 just a little better, but I also think that might have been just because it's so fresh, and I'm wanting to get into the ending. How Season 1 ended, it was so action-packed and so many things happening. Getting back to letting the story build up, I'm kind of like a little bit antsy on waiting for that to happen. But Season 2 has been great so far. I think you'll really enjoy it. It's just such a crazy show. And I love the whole, he's a hulking figure, dude. Like everyone, he's pointed out in every crowd. Everyone makes the jokes about it. And I just think it's so cool. I love everything about it. But yeah, I've enjoyed Reacher a ton.
Yeah. Alan Ritchson, man, he got jacked for that film. And I remember watching the first episode when he gets zip tied. And I'm like, dude, are you telling me this dude's not just gonna break out of those stupid zip ties? I was like, I can break out of those zip ties. I was like, I literally did it. Like, I've done it. Like, I broke it. That's super easy. And then he, like, you know, winces like a little tiny thing and like they fall off. And I'm like, yep, okay. I'm in. I'm in.
Yeah, but I love, like, that's what they did such a good job with the character, is he's respectful in that he's not just gonna act like he is this big tough guy, but he does it when he needs to, right? I
Yep.
mean, I think the first jail scene perfectly,
Oh, man.
encapsulates that. You talk about he's chilling up on the top bunk and those guys come and try to steal his friend's glasses, and he jumps down and he's like, no, we're not doing this. And they leave his cell after he beats up the one guy. And then a few minutes later, they try him again and he just destroys everybody. And it's so, like, cringy because it's one dude taking on like 8 guys. But I literally love it because it's just, they execute it really well.
Well, and also he has the physique that it makes sense.
Yes.
I
You, like,
think that
almost can
helps.
expect it. Yep.
Yeah, when one dude takes on 8 guys and it's like, he's like Keanu Reeves size, and you're like, okay, like, is anyone really that good of a fighter? But like when he's also this hulking monstrosity of a man, it does help. It does help the
Yes.
believability of it.
Visually, it definitely helps. I've watched the original Jack Reacher film with Tom Cruise in it,
Yeah, Tom Cruise, yeah.
and he has some of those scenes where he takes on 4 or 5 guys, and you're just kind of like, okay. I mean, I guess because it's Tom Cruise, and I understand what they're trying to portray, but you're kind of like, Tom Cruise is a short guy. I mean, he's not a very big dude.
Yeah,
But
he's
this
not.
totally changes the dynamic when you have this guy that's like 6'4", probably like 250, 300 pounds of muscle, and he just wrecks everybody. It definitely makes it feel better than them just trying to convince you that this little guy can do it when they just throw this big guy on the screen and you're like, yeah, I get it.
I get it. Yep. And I agree. I do think that he's a great aspect for it. Now, a question I've been wanting to ask you since you watched it is there's been rumors that he wants to play the Batman in James
Yes.
Gunn's
Yep.
DCU or DCU. What do you feel? What do you feel about that?
So, it's funny because it's probably because I watched Reacher, my phone, and like X and Instagram and all that stuff. Obviously, I'm getting that stuff now because they're always listening, and I keep seeing that come up that he wants to play Batman, and I kind of can see it because even in Reacher, he doesn't talk a whole lot. He only says what needs to be said. But the thing I'm struggling with, and this is what I struggled with Affleck's Batman, is, and I think this might just be a product of me liking Christian Bale so much.
Okay.
He's not a hulking figure, right? I think that's why I struggled with Affleck's Batman so much. I felt like he was just too big for what I liked in Batman, and Christian Bale wasn't that. I'm not saying he wasn't big, but he's not this. He wasn't this scale of big. This almost feels like he is on the level of Superman, and I kind of like when Batman is kind of questionable on if he's capable of doing stuff, because that's what Batman's all about. And I think that's why I like Robert Pattinson's Batman so much. He's more, I guess the technique is more so there rather than just the brute muscle.
I get that. I do think that Christian Bale has skewed your view of Batman.
Oh, I
for
think I
what he
100%
is.
think he has.
Because like Batman's huge in the
Oh,
comics.
in the comics and the cartoons, I know he is, and I think I've said it a lot. I think The Dark Knight is such a good trilogy. It's really hurt my opinion on a lot of the DC universe in general, and definitely for Batman, because the way the Joker is portrayed, I think that's obviously, a lot of people say that's the best Joker ever, but that's the reason I don't like the Joker movie with Joaquin Phoenix. I just don't like that version of the Joker like I like the Heath Ledger version. And I think it's the same thing for Bane. I love how Bane is portrayed in the Dark Knight trilogy rather than how we get him a lot in the cartoons and comics, where he's kind of just a goofball, just some big brute. I like that he's a little bit more tactical and he's smarter than you give him credit for. And that's what I think I like about Robert Pattinson and Christian Bale's Batman. He's really smart, and he kind of leans on that rather than just the brute force. And I feel like that's what Affleck's Batman relied on. And sure, they gave him his smart scenes and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, he was just this big dude that you could see taking on, 8 or 9 people at a time, which is what you want your hero to be able to do. But I like the way that Robert Pattinson and Christian Bale did it, where it was more technically driven. You know, they're going to hit this guy, and then they're going to assume that this other guy is attacking from this angle. So they're going to counter. I like that rather than, oh, I'm just going to take a bunch of hits and I'm just going to be the last one standing because I'm the biggest guy here. So I think.
So I think there is a big discrepancy in DC power, right? So in Christian Bale's universe, it was very grounded. And if we're going to expand that universe to have Superman, to have Wonder Woman, to have Hawkman, oh my goodness, Hawkman, is that right?
Yeah, I think so. Honestly, some of those things, you know, Black Adam.
my mind just blew off its chains. But you know, to have someone who is physically imposing doesn't help. You know, it doesn't help them win those fights, but you need both. And so when you're physically imposing and you have all those smarts and you're going up against gods on like Walking Among Us, like that's DC. That's DC Comics. Is like their power levels are just out through the chain. And so when Batman has no powers, you know, he's only 6'2", 230. Like that's his listed. And Alan Richson is 6'4", 240. So like he's not that much bigger. I mean, barely any than what the comics list.
I think you made a really good point. If we are going to be talking about the DC universe, the universe is going to have Superman. It's going to have Wonder Woman. It's going to have It's going to have an Aquaman, I'm sure. It's going to have a Black Adam again, I'm sure. It's going to have a Dr. Fate. It's going to have all these big characters. And you do need Batman to look the part. He does need to look like he's capable, you know, whether we believe Batman can really beat Superman or, you know, whichever side of the fence you're on there, he does need to at least look similarly sized. So I think for a DC universe Batman, I think Alan Richardson is perfect for that role. So getting back to your original question. I would like that for a DC universe, you know, role. As far as just a Batman role, though, I do prefer Robert Pattinson or Christian Bale because I guess maybe that's one big reason I like Spider-Man so much is I really like the street level stuff. You know, we see Spider-Man dealing with a lot of the street level stuff, and maybe I think the reason why I like The Dark Knight so much is you almost feel like, this is going to sound funny, but you almost feel like you could be that. You know, it doesn't seem so out of the ballpark of, obviously you can't be Superman, you can't fly, you can't do all these other things, but you know, if you had the equipment that Batman has, and you know, you do some training and stuff like that, you almost feel like you could be that same type of thing. It's more relatable rather than something like Superman, where obviously no one can be Superman. So I think that's probably why I'm on that side of the fence when it comes to Batman. But I think like you said, I think you made a perfect example. As far as a DC universe goes, I would love to see him play Batman.
Okay. Yeah, and honestly, I'm fine with them not doing a solo Batman movie in the DC universe. Like let my mind is not working tonight, but let Patterson have his solo Elseworld Batman and do like the Bat family there, and then bring in, we know Batman. He doesn't have to have a story told, you know. And then if it's successful when he gets brought in, like then we can do something with it.
Maybe have that question then, yeah.
But it's kind of like to me, it's kind of like Hawkeye. You know, Hawkeye didn't get his own movie. Now he got his own show after, you know, a decade and a half. Mm-hmm. But like, you know, no one asked like, well, we never got introduced to Hawkeye. Like, this is crazy that he just shows up in the Avengers. Like, no one like threw out things. So like, I think it's fine to not have people completely flushed out and show up. I thought that was good in Black Adam. Like, you know, Dr. Fate just showed up at the end of his career, and he was the best character in that movie.
Yeah. Well, I think the big difference here is, honestly, personally, I think the DCU, it hurt them that they didn't have a standalone Batman movie. And I say that because Batman, you could argue, is probably in the top 3 most well-known superheroes. Maybe he might be even number 1. I would argue that it's probably Batman, Superman, Spider-Man. You could probably say it in one of those orders. And when you have a character like that is so well-known and so iconic, I really do feel like, obviously we might all know the origin story. We might know he grew up an orphan or la-di-da-di-da, but it is still something you would like to see so we can get to know maybe that actor better and how they're going to portray that character. I do agree with what you're saying, though, where we do know him so well, it does make it easier to just include him into something.
Right.
And I agree with that. I really do hope with the DCU that we do actually get a standalone Batman with whoever they decide to cast. I just think that would be good. You know, take Iron Man for an example. He was the first one that kicked it all off for the Marvel
Yeah.
for the MCU. I would like that. I know we're getting Superman first. I know that's going to be what kicks off the DCU, and rightfully so. But I feel like Batman would be that perfect Captain America movie. I think that would be a perfect 1-2 hit for the DC universe. Give us your two biggest heroes. Let us see where you're going with their stories, and then whether we get a second one for either of them, whatever. But at least give us an idea of where we're going for those characters and what their personal agendas are.
Okay. And I'm fine with that. I am honestly fine with that. There's a lot of Batman content.
Yeah, there is.
There's a lot of Batman content.
There is.
And you said like I just don't love where they're going with it. I know everyone adored the Patterson film, the Batman, and I thought it was good. I didn't have any of the fanboy takeout that everyone else did. I thought he was fine in the role. I thought he was good. But as far as like this is the best Batman there's ever been, I was not. I was not close to that. I had some laughing moments in the film that I was laughing at the film, not because it was funny, because it was stupid. Like, dude is like, shaking off SMGs like it's nothing, and then literally takes 150 SMG bullets to the chest and doesn't even like move, and then a shotgun pretty much kills him. Like, dude, like pick a lane. And then like literally when he fell and hit that bridge after skydiving and just like got up, I was like, oh, okay. Like, what?
So I unfortunately, this is going to be, it's about time we have something we disagree about, because we agree too much on this podcast recently. I disagree with, I loved the Batman. I had all those fanboy moments because until I got into the MCU, Batman was my favorite superhero because of the Dark Knight trilogy. I thought it was so good. Maybe he even is still probably top 3 for talking about superheroes overall. I love Batman. I had so many of those fanboy moments. The hallway scene, you're talking about the SMGs bouncing off of them. I loved that scene. I thought it was so cool. And I get what you're saying about
I love that scene too. I thought that scene was great.
Kind of ruins it.
Exactly. That scene's great.
I get that. But I still kind of love it at the same time because you got to show he's vulnerable a little bit. Mm-hmm. And whether they do it in a good way or a bad way, they still did it. And I still love those movies. And I actually have a very big hot take on Robert Pattinson. He's actually my number 2 Batman we've ever gotten. I think that's how much I enjoyed the Batman movies. That might be a fun thing we could talk about on the podcast in the future.
Is that a hot take?
I feel like it is because, man, if I hear one more time that some of these older guys are the best Batman, dude, I've tried to watch those movies, and I understand that the technology is just there, and that's the way acting was, but they are just so hard to watch for me. And I have such a hard time. And I know that's not a popular opinion, but something about those older movies like Michael Keaton, I just don't enjoy his Batman that much. Adam West, no. I'm not a fan of him. I really like Christian Bale. I really like Robert Pattinson. I know maybe you agree with me. Maybe he is your number 2. But dude, when I hear some people say like George Clooney, I can't do it.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I'm not a big. You said Adam West. Absolutely not. Probably, dude. I would say the opening of the Batman, like the opening scene, may have been the best single piece of content Batman we've got.
Yeah, it was cool.
Like I thought that was
really cool.
I thought that was kind of perfect. And honestly, I thought Robert Pattinson did a great job. I did not love I think my biggest complaint, aside from the switching on and off invulnerability, was that I thought his Bruce Wayne was terrible. I thought it was horrible.
I can kind of agree with that, but I also feel like that was a product of us really not getting to see a whole lot of it. There was really not a whole lot of Bruce Wayne. I feel like in that movie,
And
he
it
was
doesn't.
Batman for a large majority of it.
No, he was Batman for the
Yeah,
entirety of it. There was no Bruce
yeah,
Wayne. There was no.
yeah.
Like, dude. Anyone and their mother was like, dude, that's Batman. Like
That's
that's
what makes dude. That's it. That's what makes it so good. Listen,
like we haven't seen Bruce Wayne in forever, and they could see like over the corner, like putting on the bat suit.
well, don't forget the eye makeup because that was a big
Yeah.
point of emphasis in this Batman movie.
Oh,
Was he
yeah.
always had the eye makeup
I
on.
always had it on. Yeah, dude. That's...
So, oh,
Wait, hold on
man.
1 second. Let me see if I can put the map. Yep. Okay.
Yep. He's like, hey, Riddler, give me 1 second. I gotta run to the bathroom real quick. But I don't know. I loved the Batman. I thought it was great. But man, that's funny. That is good. I'm glad you. It
it's
sounds like
good.
you have a. I'm glad. It sounds like you agree though. Would you say Christian Bale 1, Robert Pattinson 2 for you?
I mean, he I don't know. I don't know if he's
I will
too...
say, I know Michael Keaton. I didn't watch the Flash movie, but the clips I have seen of him in the Flash movie, that was the best version Michael Keaton has ever given us of the Batman.
Oh
But
yeah, that's it. But it is just a product of the time. So it
exactly,
is.
and that's why I said I did preface it with I know that's just how it is nowadays.
So it's really hard to, are we including Kevin Conroy in this? Like,
Well, I mean that's animated, so I feel like that's hard to include him in that because
okay.
I think
Well,
he
if
is
we're not
a
including him,
legend. Yeah, I think I'm talking about live action movie
Okay.
only. Yeah,
he honestly, he's probably one. He's probably one for Batman. He's last for playing Bruce Wayne, but he's probably one for Batman for me.
okay.
And then Christian Bale. Christian Bale, his size and his he just didn't in his movies. The thing that you love is one of the things I disliked is that he felt incompetent at actually performing feats of strength, and that's what I loved about the Ben Affleck, is that dude, when he punched that guy pretty much through the floor, that was amazing. I was like, okay, that's the strength Batman needs. Is it when he goes he can bench press I think 580 pounds or something in the comics, crazy like that, and press over 1,000 pounds. He needs to be he needs to be physically superior to everyone he's fighting. And I like that about it. I like that about Ben Affleck. So it probably goes Patterson, Christian Bale, Affleck for me.
Okay. Well, I mean, like I said, I don't disagree. I think I've never heard it really even said the way you said it, but I think for it being a DC Universe movie, I think you do need the big Batman. But I think the standalone movies, I prefer, the littler guy, the one that's more technical, the one that's a little trying to be smarter about his fights that he's picking and stuff like that. I like that aspect of it. But I actually would love, going back to the original question before we went down this Batman ranking. I think Alan Richardson would do great in a DC Universe setting. I mean, do you agree? Is that what you would like to see, or is there maybe someone else out there that you would like to see get a chance to play Batman?
Oh man, I think so. So talking about, I don't know if he portrays smart.
Alan Richardson?
Yeah, even
more
in
he's more brute strength.
Even in Reacher, I don't peg him as brilliant, and Batman needs to be brilliant. So I know I'm picking and choosing here and saying I want him to be a massive man, but I also want him to portray brilliance, and I just don't see that from Reacher. I see him as clever, but not brilliant.
Okay.
And
okay,
so,
that makes sense. Because I was about to say, I feel like the show does a good job of he's always understanding of the situation, but that would definitely be a character trait of clever rather than smart.
Yeah, and so I don't mind. I think that they could probably write him and he can do it. It just depends. I did at first see him in Blue Mountain State. One of my college buddies showed me that show. Do not watch it. Don't recommend it. But to watch him in that, and then to watch him in anything else is pretty funny because he is just a complete idiot. So I do have that like over me as well.
So you're kind of in the back of your head, you're like, ah, this guy really ain't that smart.
And maybe that's on me, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see. You know, we haven't really talked a lot about the DC stuff because there's really not been a whole lot to talk about. They're probably in the biggest transition period
Oh yeah.
they've ever seen. Is there anybody or any hero in particular that you're really hoping we get to see with the DC universe? I'm sure maybe Green Lantern is pretty high on your list.
Oh yeah. Kyle Rayner, Green Lantern. I want to see him really bad. I want to see that entire, and I really want to see um trying to think of his first name. Um, but it's Saint oh god, just left me. But Saint Walker. Saint Walker is the leader of the Blue Lanterns
Okay.
Corps, and that's the Hope. And I really want to see him. I want to see Saint Walker. Saint Walker, Kyle Rayner, and then also Booster Gold.
Okay.
Booster Gold is such a fun character. And his introduction into Darkest Night was a lot of fun. So just those three are my top list, and that's just because I love Darkest Night.
What's your favorite comic run of all time?
Yeah, Blackest Night,
So,
not Darkest Night.
or,
Blackest Night.
yeah, Blackest Night. So I'm excited. I think I'm honestly, I don't talk a whole lot about DC, but this new Superman movie, is it Superman Legacy? I believe that's what the name
Yeah,
of the.
Superman Legacy.
That is a movie that I am very, very excited for because it really is, a new dawn of DC. I hated the DCEU, absolutely hated it. I thought it was some of the worst storytelling, some of the worst movies.
Ooh,
I quit watching the movies,
ouch.
because I couldn't do it anymore. I felt like it was just not good. And I feel like these DC characters are so iconic and they deserve so much better. So Superman, and I really do believe James Gunn is the guy that could fix DC, personally.
Okay. I mean,
But
my favorite movie of the year was his. So
all right, so we're getting back to that. You putting Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 down as your number one?
oh yeah, without question. Now this does come with an asterisk. I unfortunately have not seen Oppenheimer yet.
Okay.
I assume that will take number one spot for me, just because Christopher Nolan is my favorite director of all time. And I haven't seen it because I didn't get to watch it in theaters, and I just haven't had time with reffing and kids and finding babysitters. It just didn't work to go see it. And we just had Ezra when that was like dropping, so it was just a very busy time. So unfortunately, I haven't had time to rent it and sit down and watch it. But I think that may take the top spot for me because I just love Christopher Nolan and that whole story, and just all the buzz around it is incredible, and I'm really excited to watch it. And that will be happening sooner rather than later. But for me, Guardians of the Galaxy 3, man, if a movie can make me cry, laugh, and make me want to rewatch it, it's going to be hard to beat because I don't just want to rewatch movies that often.
I'm the exact same way because I'm definitely one of those people, and I kind of hate that I'm like this. But once I've seen something, I'm like, I don't really want to use. I want to use that time to watch something new.
There's so much out there.
Exactly. So like, it's hard for me to watch something and then be like, you know what? Instead of watching something new, I'd rather just watch what I've already watched. There's only been a few movies to ever do that. Like Star Wars Episode 3. That's probably my most watched movie of all time. But like, it is very few movies, or I don't know if I've ever rewatched a show. So
Ooh.
it is.
I do rewatch a lot of stuff. But to rewatch something several times in a year, that's different. Because I mean, I actually just rewatched the entire Punisher show the other day. So I do rewatch stuff, but not in the same year.
Yeah, see, I'm not. I can't. Something, and I think a lot of it is just because of how far behind I am. There's so many shows that I have not watched, or so many things I have to catch up on. I literally can't justify watching something that I've already watched again. So I'm just so far behind. I think it's so funny that we do this podcast, And I think it's good. The podcast has definitely helped me in the fact that when there is something new that comes out, I make sure I watch it so I don't get behind, so we have something to talk about.
Except for what if.
Except for what I'm getting there. Listen. But there's so much stuff like that. It's helped me. Like I'm like, all right, got to watch from episode 1 the day it comes out. Like Echo, I'm gonna make myself grind through that. Now I don't know if I'll watch all of it in one sitting like I did Reacher, just because I bet that probably drops on a weekday. If I had to guess, probably like a Thursday. If it drops on a Friday, I might do it.
It's the 9th. What is the 9th? 9th is a Tuesday.
Yeah, so ain't no way I'm watching all that the day it drops, right? So
I'll
watch I'll watch like a couple episodes each night probably. But that's one thing I love about the podcast. It's really gotten me to make sure I keep up with what is coming out and what is out. And, before, man, there's so many things I'd be like, I'll eventually get to it. I can't tell you how many shows I've said I'll eventually watch, and I've never even clicked on to start watching.
Yeah, that's one of the things when we were talking and doing our rankings the other day, and I was like, man, Jake just hasn't watched many shows. Like, that's why he was like, man, this Secret Invasion's really good. Why is everyone hating on it? I'm like,
nope. I will stand. Listen, we haven't talked about that because we hadn't been doing the podcast. Were we doing the podcast? I don't remember.
No, we started with Ahsoka.
Okay. I still did like Secret Invasion. I thought it was fun. I thought there was a lot of good things about it. I just think the ending was terrible.
Yeah. I mean, I'm in a similar boat. I thought it was pretty okay. It started to derail for me around episode 4 when Nick Fury was crippled walking in an open field while gunfire was going all around him. Then they choose to shoot the guy right beside him when they're like trying to. It just like, dude, there's some really bad decisions in that movie, and then they introduce the most overpowered creature and all, and also, man, to learn skills from getting people's DNA just doesn't make sense. Like,
yeah, so magic
I
agree with
rings.
that aspect of it. I agree with that aspect of it, and like I said, I still think the first few episodes they're fun, and I think they do kind of keep you on the edge of your seat.
Well, they did put an interesting premise in front of you that they should have went for, but they didn't.
Yeah, there's so much they could have done better with that show. Like, I love the idea of never knowing if who was on the screen was a Skrull or not. I thought that was cool. Like, it really makes you pay attention to what's happening because there could be one little scene that you might look away from for a couple seconds, and it could have changed everything that you know about the show. And I liked that aspect of it. But yeah, that ending was so bad. It was really bad. And not only did they create the most powerful character in the Marvel universe that instantly learned how to use all these powers, they just let her walk free afterwards. No idea where she went. But we'll talk about that another day when Secret Invasion Season 2 comes out.
I think that's one of the reasons that the Marvels did so terrible.
I think Secret Invasion?
Secret Invasion. I think if Secret Invasion was good, the Marvels would have performed well.
Well, and I think we both had the same agreements on the Marvels. I thought it was a good movie. I didn't think it was bad by any...
Completely middle tier Marvel.
Yeah. So, what are you going to do? They can't all be Loki, unfortunately.
Yeah. But anyway, back to your question. What's your favorite of the year?
So, Across the Spider-Verse, after seeing those 20 minutes, I think it is probably my number one. But we really did have a pretty good year of movies. I mean, I did see Oppenheimer, and I think it was good, but I'm going to be honest, for me personally, I don't know if I enjoyed it more than Across the Spider-Verse or even more so than Guardians Volume 3. And honestly, the Dark Horse movie for me this year, and you're going to laugh when I say it, I thought The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes was really, really good. If you're a Hunger Games fan, I think you need to watch that movie because it's some of the best acting I saw this year. It's just a great story, really fun story. Obviously, you kind of have an idea of where it goes, but it's still really fun. I think that was a Dark Horse movie for me this year. Obviously, I know I didn't give it the flowers it deserves, but Oppenheimer was good. It was really, really good. I'm probably forgetting some. I really enjoyed Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. It definitely was not above the movies that I've listed already, but still a really good movie that I feel like got a lot of... I don't even feel like it got hate. I just feel like it didn't get the love it deserved for what they did with the Turtle universe. I'm really excited. I hope we get more from that team because I thought it was a really fun story. If you like animation, I think Mutant Mayhem was a really great movie for showing off some cool animation. It wasn't as good as Across the Spider-Verse, but it was still good.
When it came out, you said it was better.
I know, and now that I've thought back on it, I think Across the Spider-Verse is better. But I'm telling you, I loved Mutant Mayhem. I thought it was really, really good. And what I liked about Mutant Mayhem was, obviously I'm a big Ninja Turtle fan, but it was just easy to follow and a really great new origin story. It was really brand new. We had never kind of seen the Turtles in this light. We had never seen Master Splinter like the way he is. I think Master Splinter was probably the worst done part of the movie, but it was also, a comedic part of the movie that you could kind of get past and not be upset about. So I really enjoyed Mutant Mayhem. I'm sure there's some other movies that I saw this year that I might be forgetting, but
did you see John Wick Chapter 4?
I did not, and the reason I didn't see that is I'm probably going to get in trouble for this, so I probably shouldn't even say it. I've never seen any of the John Wick movies, so those are some on my list that I need to watch, and I didn't want to see 4 because I haven't seen any of the other ones.
Yeah, honestly, with John Wick, you can just watch 1 and kind of quit it, because it is the best. The others are good stories, amazing action, but really the heart of John Wick is 1. And it is one of the best action films ever created, and I feel like it needs to be watched. The other ones are just greed, honestly, and they're fun. But honestly, one of the movies this year for me that was kind of a dark horse that I didn't really have on my plate, but is Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. Man, what a fun watch it was. Now it's not top.
Yeah. That's a movie I haven't got to see yet, so I'd love to hear what you have to say about it.
It is just a great time, and I love Chris Pine. I do. He's absolutely so fun, and he plays a character perfectly. And I don't think any of the marketing for this movie actually did what it was supposed to do, because if you love board games, and I adore board games, like this movie is so much fun. And I don't play Dungeons and Dragons, but if I did, I feel like this would just be the absolute most fun movie to do. I actually just started playing Baldur's Gate, which is just so crazy addicting and so much fun. And has made me like this movie more because I've actually understood the world a little bit more. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a good 7 out of 10 movie, I'd say.
Well, that was actually one of the things I was hoping to get to in tonight's episode. Was I know you've been playing Baldur's Gate 3 a lot. You were talking a ton to me about it around Christmas time.
Oh man,
are you still enjoying it as much as you were? And I know you're still early into the game, and I know you still got a lot to go. Do you have an idea of where this could potentially end up in your favorite video games of all time list?
Number 1.
Really? So you're already putting it there?
It's not there yet. I mean, it's gotta be good. But I mean, this is just the absolute craziest thing. I'm literally, so I have you play campaigns with people, and we tried to get you in on one, but we couldn't. And so I have
throw me right under the bus.
I know. I like you there. And then, me and 2 of my friends, we got a campaign going, then I got a solo campaign, and it's just like it's so different. Like you play through this game probably 50 times at least, and just have not a like, oh well, that was different. Like the entire game is different. Like because you can just play as like who your backstory is, what your race is, what your class is. Like it changes how people interact with you. It changes the options you get to go. Like you never have to do anything. You don't have to fight anybody. You don't have to befriend anybody. There's one game where I've literally I was looking at my camp, which is for where all your allies set. In the game with my friends, we got 7 people in there, and I've literally I only got 3 because the other 4 I killed. So it's just such a fun, unique experience with so much put into the dialogue of it. It's insanity. I just didn't expect it. And I didn't expect to love it as much as I am, but I really like. It is so much fun.
Yeah, so it's one of those games that I'm hoping to get around to at some point because I just never have heard a single bad thing about the game, and that's impressive when we live in a day and age where that's what most people want to do is they want to talk down something and make it not seem as good as it is, or they want to talk trash about it for whatever reason. And this is one of those games I feel like I've not heard any of that. So I'm excited for that. I think you getting into it and loving it as much as you did, even more so, reassured me that it's that good of a game because
Yeah.
it's one of those games that I wouldn't say that you would even classify yourself as a type of gamer that likes those type of games, but it absolutely has you hooked.
I think it's because I haven't had the opportunity to play this many games like this. Is because
Okay.
but it is essentially a board game.
Yeah.
And I love board games. Like board games, I can literally play board games for hours with people that like to play board games. Now, if people don't like to play board games, it kind of takes me out of it because they're not competitive and they don't
Yeah.
want to win. They don't care. So it takes the fun out of it a little bit. But but this, I mean, everybody in this game wants to win because no one else is controlling them. So um, it's a lot of fun. Like today, I had set a timer and I was like, I'm gonna play for an hour while the kids are napping before I put some furniture together, and I accidentally teleported something where I wasn't supposed to. I killed some people in a village, and I teleported to that village instead of a different one, and immediately initiated combat with 25 like golems, or and I was like, oh no. And I was like, I'm gonna die, team wiped, and I haven't saved. I'm gonna waste this entire like 45 minutes of play. Um, and I somehow made it out. It was, and it's just a blast to think through the combat situations and just how many options there are. It's so cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad you're enjoying it. It's I've been saying this for such a long time. There's nothing as fun as when a game has you like absolutely glued to it. You're
Oh
always thinking
yeah.
about it. You're always wanting to play it, and I think that's just like some of the best parts. Some of the most fun you can have is when you're really glued to a game. So it's cool that you're having that experience with it. Um, you know, we got some fun stuff coming up though. Like we just talked about a little bit. We do have Echo right around the corner. I know we're both excited for that. How excited are you though for Echo?
Oh man, I'm guarded. I'm guarded on it.
Okay.
Cause the trailer got me so hyped, and then I'm like, man, did we all forget? Did we forget the rumors? Did we forget whose shows these are? Like we, I'm like,
It is
don't
tough. It
don't
is tough.
disappoint me. Don't disappoint me. Don't get me hyped for this and then ruin it. So I'm guarded, but I'm excited.
Well, I think the thing that has me most excited about it is it really feels like Marvel is trying to get back on track. I mean, outside of Echo, really we don't have a whole lot of stuff coming out this year. I mean, we have Deadpool 3, but unless I'm forgetting something,
The
is that
Sony
about
verse, the Sony
yeah, well
verse.
there is this yeah, there's the Madam Web and stuff like that. But if we're talking about the MCU,
That is
this
it.
is this is just those two things. And I feel like Marvel has
There
really
is
made
another show. There's another show coming out.
I'm trying to think which
Mm,
show I feel like I know what it is, but I also have forgot about it. But either way, just one other show coming out. I feel like they're really going to have to make sure that the stuff is good because I feel like this is a really big year for Marvel. Because I would probably go ahead and say overall, the MCU was probably, it was good this year. We had some of the best movies we've ever gotten in Guardians Volume 3. But overall, I feel like it did not get what they really wanted out of it with Ant-Man and the Marvels and stuff like that. So
oh,
I'm expecting this year to be good.
Agatha, Darkhold
Okay.
Diaries is still supposed to come out, and then the X-Men '97, which
Okay, the cartoon. Yeah.
I'm not. I wasn't an
Also, yeah.
X-Men comic. I didn't watch it. I don't know anything about it. So
I feel like that would be a good if it is something you'd like to learn more about. I feel like 97 would be a good. I've watched some of those older or cartoons and stuff like that, and they're really fun. So I feel like this would be if it's a something you're interested in learning more about. I feel like that would be a really good gateway into learning more about the X Men.
yeah, I know a good bit from just how many comics I've read, but I just never
Yeah,
watched that animated
yeah,
series. That's one of the things I don't like about um the What If because my wife kind of loses interest in animation a little bit.
Yeah.
But like, it's way too advanced for my kids to watch. Like, my 3-year-old cannot watch What If. Like,
Right.
there's way too much in that show. Like, it is clearly a TV-14 show.
Yeah.
So
Well, I feel like X-Men will be a good one though. If you wanted to watch it, I think you'll enjoy it. But like I said, if that's all we're getting from Marvel from MCU, this upcoming year, I feel like these things got to be good. I feel like they're really playing big into Deadpool 3 though, being an
oh,
absolute huge hit.
well, I mean, the Deadpool franchise is just so good. As grotesque as it is a really good show. I mean, a really good movie.
Well, it's probably one of their biggest things that they have really overall. I mean, you could consider anything that the MCU's got. Deadpool is a huge character.
I think it has grossed the most outside of the Avengers.
Oh, really?
Like,
Even more than Spider-Man?
I well, so I think per movie, I think you'd
Okay.
say grossing because it only
Okay.
costs like it only costs like what was it like 40 mil to make, and it made I think it grossed like 750 mil or something. Like it was
Well,
like an
that would probably make sense.
insane budget like
Yeah.
difference.
Well, I feel
And
like
I'm
that would
saying
be
gross. I meant net. I meant
net.
net
Yeah, I figured that's
profits.
what you said.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Finance
feel
guy,
like
you gotta correct me.
well, I feel like it'll be a good year for Marvel, though. I feel like it's got to be. Like I said, I feel like this year was probably they would probably consider it a letdown, whether most people would or not. I feel like overall
Oh
they would
yeah.
probably say it was not a year that they would be happy with. So I feel like Echo has to be good. Deadpool 3 has to be good. And Agatha, man, I really don't know. I feel like they're going to change the name again before we even get to it. So I don't have my. That's probably the show I have my least hopes held high for with that one. But all in all, it should be a good year for Marvel.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a good reset. I think it's gonna be a good reset. Drop this one early. Drop it all at once. Get we got 3 Sony movies coming out where they can really drop the ball on and get us excited for the MCU to actually make some stuff. And then if they produce a killer Deadpool movie, um, then and that's the only one, it's gonna make people have that hunger for more MCU content,
Yeah,
and that's a good thing. Like you don't need to be like just gluttonous all the time with this stuff. Like even like over this past week, like I had to watch 3 episodes of What If today in order to like even talk about it on this because they all drop so fast. Like it's okay to do the weekly releases and not give us so much content. Like it's okay.
100%. And that I'm like we've talked about it before, and you even said you started to agree that it is just so much nicer when we get one episode a week because you can actually make sure you're keeping up with it. And I'm excited for the fact that we are getting such little content this year. It's gonna be so refreshing to not be like, all right, well, this is over, but guess what? I get 2 weeks to rest before I got to start grinding something else out. I think it's gonna be a really good year to rest for the
Yeah.
MCU.
And we do love this stuff. We're doing a podcast about it clearly, but like we do a lot of other things, and this isn't
Yeah,
even close to number one on our priorities. So like all of this is just entertainment for when we don't actually live. So
exactly. Yep, 100%. It's like our I don't even know what you'd call it, but yeah, I think you described it well. But other than that, I think that's kind of the majority of the episode that we have to talk about for you guys this week. I don't know, Zane, did you have any other things that you maybe saw or read that you'd like to talk about before we?
no, man. I like my screen time was down like 56% because I've been just completely disconnected. Um, over the break, I've just
Yep,
been fellowshipping with family and having a great time. So I haven't stayed on the gram at all, or on the X. I gotta stop calling it Twitter. Um,
right.
and I've not been on the X, and been playing a little Mario Snap, but that's about it on the phone.
You're right. Well, I had the same experience. My screen time has been way down just because really there's not a whole lot coming out. I
There we
did hear
go.
that it sounds like Marvel is leaning towards recasting Kang after the Jonathan Major news. So that'll be something we wait to see what happens. Honestly, I hope they just move on at this point. I feel like that's one of those things we need to just skip over. It was a big swing and a miss. Let's just move on with another villain. But we'll see what happens. Um, like I said, I really haven't even heard much other than that they're just planning on recasting. So there's a lot to see coming up in the future. But as far as stuff we have to talk about this week, I think that's about all that we have for you guys. We hope you guys had a great Christmas and a great New Year's. Obviously, I think it's going to be a really good year for the podcast because I think there's some good stuff coming out. I think the Deadpool is going to be great. We do have Echo to talk about. And honestly, with them dropping all the episodes on a Tuesday, that'll probably be something we have to talk about for about 2 weeks because I feel like it'll probably take us about that long to really both of us have time to finish it up. But yeah, I think it's going to be a good year for the podcast. Again, we always want to thank you guys so much for taking time to watch. If you guys have any questions or anything like that, we are actually in the process or thinking about getting Instagram opened up strictly for the podcast, so you guys have a way to reach us. So that's something you guys can look forward to here in 2024. We'll probably be taking some clips out of the podcast and posting them on there. So if you guys like short form content and want to keep up with us that way, that'll be a great opportunity for you guys to do that. So again, we just want to thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys for giving us a great 2023, and we're very excited for what 2024 has in store for us. So again, thank you guys, and we'll see you in the next one.